If you are entering a new marriage after losing a spouse, here is something most people never think about. Your new marriage could unintentionally change where your assets go when you pass away. And in some cases, it can impact what your children ultimately will receive. Not because anyone is trying to do something wrong, but because of how the law works once you remarry. Today, I want to walk you through a prenuptial agreement after a first death can be one of the most important steps to protect your children and your future. Blended families bring together new relationships, new responsibilities, and often new financial dynamics. You may have children from your first marriage. Your new spouse may also have children. And now everything becomes interconnected. But legally, remarriage changes more than people realize. It affects property rights, inheritance rights, and what your spouse may be entitled to, even if your estate plan says something different. Let's start with what happens when you remarry. In many states, including California, your spouse has certain legal rights simply by being married to you. That can include rights to property, rights to income, and even rights to challenge your estate plan. So even if your plan says you want your children to receive specific assets, your spouse may still have a claim, and that can create conflict and uncertainty. Now, here is where most people get caught off guard. They assume that their trust or will is enough to control everything. But once you remarry, your spouse becomes part of the legal equation. That means your plan is no longer operating in isolation. Without clear agreement in place, your spouse may have rights that override or complicate your intentions. And this is especially important if you are trying to preserve assets for your biological children. This is where a prenuptial agreement becomes critical. A prenup is not about mistrust. It is not about expecting the relationship to fail. It is about clarity. It allows both people to define in advance how assets will be transferred during the marriage and how they will be handled later. It creates a clear understanding of what belongs to whom and what is intended for specific beneficiaries. For example, you may want to ensure that certain assets remain designated for your biological children. This could include a home investment account or other assets you built during your first marriage. Without a prenup, those assets may become subject to shared rights once you remarry. But with a properly structured agreement, you can clearly define which assets are separate and how they should be handled in the future. Let's walk through a simple scenario. A parent loses their spouse and later remarries. They already have an estate plan that leaves assets to their biological children. They assume everything is set, but without a prenup, their new spouse may have rights to a portion of those assets. If something happens later, this can create dispute, delays, or even changes to how assets are distributed. Now, compare that to a situation where there's a clear prenup agreement in place. Both spouses understand what assets are separate, what assets are shared, and what is intended for the children. There is far less confusion and far less risk. This is not just about protecting assets. It is also about protecting relationships. Blended families can already have complex emotional dynamics. When expectations are unclear, it can lead to tension between spouses, between children, and across the entire family. A clear plan helps prevent those issues before they start. It allows everyone to move forward with a shared understanding. If you are considering remarriage after losing a spouse, here are a few important questions to think about. Do you want to preserve certain assets specifically for your biological children? Are you clear on what your new spouse may be entitled to under the law? Does your current estate plan account for remarriage? And most importantly, have you clearly defined expectations with your future spouse? Because without that clarity, your plan may not work the way that you expect it to. If this is something you are thinking about, this is the time to address it. At Allenby Law, we help blended families navigate these exact situations. We create plans that protect your children, respect your new relationship, and bring clarity to what can otherwise be a very complex process. We simplify everything so you can move forward with confidence. If you would like to review your current plan or prepare for remarriage the right way, you can reach out to us for a consultation. Because estate planning is not just about documents. It is about making sure that your family is protected, your intentions are clear, and your future is structured the right way. If you've found this helpful, follow along for more insights on how to protect your family and your future.